Testing 1, 2, 3.
ألم تر أن
Testing 1, 2, 3.
ألم تر أن
Sweet Caroline. Bum, bum, bum. Good times never looked so good. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر. يلا توكلت عليك يا ربي. 3, 2. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Quran in English. My name is Ahmed and I'm happy to take you through the second section of Surah Al-Hajj in the Quran, the chapter of the pilgrimage, or you can't really see it, the chapter of the pilgrimage. Very exciting, very cool. We kind of touch upon the pilgrimage today. But before I get into the verses, let me first explain what we're doing here. This is an educational channel where I am trying to learn about the Quran and sharing my education journey with you. I'm starting with exactly the Quran. I'm not looking at other sources at the moment. And I'm trying to see what I understand first before I hear the different perspectives and applications. So that means that sometimes I may not understand something, or sometimes I may understand something differently than you do. And the purpose of this channel is education. So sometimes you can drop me a comment like the wonderful Mr. Matar, which I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. You are my number one viewer. And essentially, like for instance, in the last section, we talked about, I mentioned the concept of possibly reincarnation, and it was, I think, verse number 6. Yes, verse number 5. And from you, the one who dies, and from you, the one who's returned to the most abject of age. And Mr. Matar mentioned that he disagrees with my perspective on it, which, again, that's the whole point of this channel. The whole point of this channel is to kind of think and to discuss and to talk. Disagreements are absolutely welcome. Different perspectives are absolutely welcome. So I sincerely thank you for sending this comment. And essentially, yeah, he gives an example of another verse, which I love explaining the Quran with another verse of the Quran. It's fantastic. And the other verse that he talks about, that when we go to sleep, God takes our souls and then we are returned at the end of sleep. And that is the return. I was stuck on the word yarud, and he was giving an example of how we can yarud, not die, and that's kind of the context of where yarud comes. And then he kind of ends with saying, until he reaches old age, where he starts not knowing after knowing something. Whereas the verse said, لِكَيْ لَا يَعْلَمَ مِنْ بَعْدِ عِلْمٍ شَيْئًا, so that he may know, so that لِكَيْ لَا, so that he may not know from after any knowledge anything. For me, that does not mean that you're starting to not know. For me, that is indicating that you are returned to an age where you know nothing. And that's why I had the idea of reincarnation. But again, the idea of reincarnation is unique to me, not from popular culture. And you don't have to agree with me. And that's the beauty of this channel. And that's the beauty of education. We can have different perspectives. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to see as best as I can. And I absolutely welcome comments. So thank you, Mr. Matar, as usual, for commenting on every video. I appreciate you. Yeah, and that kind of gives you the vibe of what we're doing here in this channel, trying to learn about the Quran as much as possible, because I believe it's the word of God as revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, and I'm trying to study the exact words of the Quran and see what I can learn. Okay, we're a little bit over the intro time, but it's fine. I thought it was very cool, and I kind of wanted to address Mr. Matar's comments, so I don't mind it. Cool, okay, yeah. The usual disclaimers. I'm not an Arabic scholar nor a Quranic scholar. I did not study the Quran. In fact, this is my first read through of the Quran. I'm not an expert in the Arabic language. I'm just giving it my best shot, even though I speak Arabic language because of school. Anyway, those disclaimers you see in every episode. Feel free to check on anything else. Let's get straight into the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. And off we go.
هذان خصمان اختصموا في ربهم فالذين كفروا قطعت لهم ثياب من نار يصب من فوق رؤوسهم الحميم.
Okay, now we're talking about a new topic. It says these two are opponents and they dispute regarding their Lord, their God. So those that disbelieve will be cut out for them garments of fire that will be poured from above their heads. And they will be poured from above their heads, scalding water, boiling water. The descriptions of hell are very, very painful and very, very dark. First of all, your clothes are on fire. Second of all, you get water poured on you, but it's boiling water, which is like is that's worse. Oh wait, it gets even worse. The next verse says,
يصهر به ما في بطونهم والجلود.
melted in it is what is in their bellies and on their skins. They're going to be melting from the inside and out. Which, look, these are the verses of the Quran that I struggle with the most, because I don't like horror movies. I don't like hearing or seeing or these visuals are just too much for me. I'm a very sensitive soul. Let's just say, in some ways I'm sensitive, in some ways I'm not. So these are very powerful images that I struggle to digest because they're just so horror, right? Your stomach's boiling, your skin's boiling. Oh wait, there's more.
ولهم مقامع من حديد.
And for them are hooked rods from iron, and here they're saying maces of iron. I don't quite understand this one, but again, it sounds like a horror movie, right? It sounds very dark, and like the Quran really settles in the idea that hell is a terrible, terrible, terrible place that you do not want to be in. And I cannot imagine it. It's like horrors beyond what I can imagine. My brain cannot comprehend and cannot visualize it, but it's very dark. And lastly,
كلما أرادوا أن يخرجوا منها من غم أعيدوا فيها وذوقوا عذاب الحريق.
And every time they want to come out from this horrible, painful, terrible, pain, unimaginable pain, out of anguish, they're in so much pain, they want to get out of it, they will be returned in it, and they will taste the punishment of burning fire. It's very clear. He's talking about the ones that disbelieve in God, go and suffer to all hell and back. Yeah, it's just it's always the visuals of punishment, because I'm also like, I am a softie, right? My nature is everyone deserves love and peace, yada yada yada. But even my enemies, I'm like, you know what? I don't want you near me, but I want what's good for you. I don't really want you to suffer. I want everybody to be happy, even the ones that I don't like. That's my nature. So it's hard for me to hear these verses. But also, the more that you live through life, the more that you start hearing about people and seeing the kind of horrors that exist in the world, sometimes you're like, you know what, maybe not me, but maybe somebody, like God, needs to take care of those people. I don't know. It's a difficult visual, but it is necessary into understanding God's perspective, like what God sees as the binary between believing and non-believing. And there seems to be a difference between the two. And I kind of want to talk about this idea of thoughts versus actions and punishment therein of, which is going to come in the next couple of verses. I was going to say inshallah, but I know that I've read the verses, so it's definitely coming up. Inshallah, I'll talk about it. That's what we say. And always, whenever there's this dark and painful description of hell and those that disbelieve, there's always the counterbalance of the good and the positive and the happy.
إن الله يدخل الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار يحلون فيها من أساور من ذهب ولؤلؤا ولباسهم فيها حرير.
Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're going slowly. No! Don't. We'll try it one last time. If it doesn't work, then I will. Okay, all right. 22, 23. 22, 23. Listen, it's a free resource for Quran.com, and I'm very grateful for them. I will never complain about this resource. It can have as many errors as it wants. It's giving me the Quran for free. I'm very grateful. And that's all that I will say on that matter. But yes, talking about, the good, the flip side of, hell and what the disbelievers get. Indeed, God will admit or will let enter those who believe and do good deeds. It's not just important to believe, it's also important to believe and do good deeds. Into gardens that flow from underneath it, rivers. And I've always talked about rivers being the source of life, but it's recently come to my attention that there's something about water also within the Christian sense that's very important in the concept of baptism, in the concept of washing yourself and being birthed anew. There's a lot more power to water than we also kind of imagine. With water, you can get health. Like with running water, you can get health. You can clean stuff. Running water has this therapeutic energy to it. Even from, it has magnetic principles. It has some spiritual beliefs outside of the Islamic traditions. Kind of believe that running water kind of purifies you, disables certain frequencies and energies. There's something powerful about running water aside from it being, about life. And that's why it's kind of repeated a million times in the Quran. I'm obviously exaggerating. And they will be adorned in it with bracelets from gold and pearls, and their garments are therein of silk. Which I always thought this was kind of like a visual that's beautiful. Like, I want to be wearing silk and I want to be pearls and bracelets. But for instance, if I was to come out today in certain parts of the Middle East, I think it's gotten more modern now, so people are a little bit relaxed. But if a man was wearing bracelets, in some parts of the world, they'll look at him, they're like, what are you, gay or something? And I laugh because I'm not going to touch that topic today. But the point being is that there's a visual of us in heaven. But if you represent that visual in the world today, sometimes you can get hate, which kind of leads you to believe that, popular belief isn't always correct. That's only the point that I'm making. But anyway, the Quran is saying, those who do believe and do good, get into gardens, rivers flow, and they'll be looking absolutely fabulous. Which is I love that idea. I love that visual. I love it being silk and pearls and gold. It is appealing to me, even though I dress down. I'm wearing a black sweatshirt. My earthly perspective is, what, let's be neutral, let's be dressed down. Okay, I say that while I'm wearing bright yellow pants, but yeah, okay, let's not get into me too much. Let's focus on the Quran. Sorry.
وهدوا إلى الطيب من القول وهدوا إلى صراط الحميد.
Yeah, here it's saying, and they were guided, and it was like the past tense of hada, wahudu ila al-tayyib, and they were guided to the good from speech, and they were guided to the path of the praiseworthy. I like that better than the commendable path. And even if you click on the footnote, it says another possible translation, they have been guided to the path of the praiseworthy. Al-Hamid is the praiseworthy because it's one of the names of God. And that's kind of, I don't know, I don't like the word commendable because it has nothing to do with what's being said. But here, what does it say? They were guided towards the good from speech, which I think is very kind of interesting. Because, good speech, obviously, there's some subjective perspectives on it. And me living in the Netherlands, but coming from the Middle East, there's also a perspective on what is good speech. Like in the Middle East, for instance, they say don't say anything negative because you might hurt someone's feeling. Try to dress it up in a specific way. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything. And so people believe that speaking good is only speaking nice things, which here in the Netherlands, it causes a lot of frustration and confusion. And if you're not saying what you really mean, then you're confusing the person that you're with. And in the Netherlands, they prefer direct speech and tell me if you like it or if you don't like it. If you like me, if you don't like me. If you think this is good or if you think this is bad, give me your honest feedback, because that's the good word. The good word is you being honest. So I think it's a bit more nuanced. What is the good word and the good speech? It doesn't mean always being positive, I don't think. But if you believe in do good, supposedly you're supposed to get guided to that, right? And they were guided towards the path of the praiseworthy, which I think we all, those who believe, want to be guided towards our highest of paths, our paths that lead to God. I think that's kind of an important thing. And generally, the ones that get into heaven are the ones that have been guided. But it's like, how do you get guided? How do you not get guided? Here's where we talk about intention, action versus intention.
إن الذين كفروا ويصدون عن سبيل الله والمسجد الحرام الذي جعلناه للناس سواء العاكف فيه والباد ومن يرد فيه بإلحاد بظلم نذقه من عذاب أليم.
All right. Let's just go over it bit by bit. First, it says, indeed, those... I got used to saying indeed. I want to say in, because that's what it is. In is the word. But indeed is, I guess, the English translation. I'm like, in. Indeed, those who disbelieved and they hinder from the path of God, from the way of God, and from the Masjid al-Haram, which is the masjid in Mecca that was built by Abraham, which we're going to cover Abraham building that shortly. Those who disbelieved and they block people from the way of God and from Masjid al-Haram, the one that we have made for people as equal for the residents as it is for the visitors. The Masjid al-Haram in Mecca is made, it should be equal for its residents versus the travelers, because again, this whole chapter is about the pilgrimage, about travelers from all over the world coming to Masjid al-Haram in Mecca to do the holy pilgrimage that you're instructed to do at least once in your life. And here it's talking about the people that disbelieve and block the path of people, and they block them from coming to the Masjid al-Haram. And then it says, and whoever intends in it of deviation wrongly, they intend to do wrong to it, then we'll make him taste of it the punishment that is painful. I think this will say Al-Kaaba, right? Sacred mosque is in Mecca. Yeah, Al-Kaaba. And here, this is what they're talking about. Generally, intending to do wrong does not necessitate in punishment unless the person acts upon it. But the sacred mosque is unique in that intending to sin in it is sufficient to bring punishment from Allah unless the person repents. Which, like, hearing that, it sounds like not something that comes intuitive to me. Like, why would you get punished for just wanting to do wrong? But we just look at the verse. The verse says, وَمَنْ يُرِد, and whoever intends, فِيهِ بِإِلْحَادٍ, and whoever intends in it deviation, like, al-mulhid is the one who is the atheist, for example. If you're, like, not believing or not going. So, يُرِد فِيهِ بِإِلْحَادٍ بِظُلْمٍ, wrongly wanting in it deviation. Whoever wants in it wrongly deviation. So it says, first, whoever disbelieved and blocks from people from getting to the Masjid al-Haram, and whoever intends therein deviation wrongly, then we'll make him test from a punishment that is painful. Which naturally I'd be like, yeah, that's what I was saying, is that why intending to do something? And maybe, yeah, the Masjid al-Haram and specifically the Kaaba and specifically there are specific conditions to that place. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe there's a reason for this special circumstance. Maybe that God is protecting that place in a specific way. But then comes the question of, can you be punished for non-action? And the first thing that comes to mind is that generally the punishments those who get into heaven and those come into hell are defined by those who believe and don't believe. It is not by who acts in belief and who acts in non-belief. Don't get me wrong, believing is the bare minimum, but you also have to do good in order to get into heaven. The exact specifics, I don't know the formula. I'm not going to talk about it too much. But primarily, if you die a believer, theoretically you should go into heaven. And if you die a disbeliever, you go into hell. So there is a precedent and there is an understanding that what exists within us is also being judged, which is a bit scary. Because it's like sometimes you have thoughts, but like having thoughts is not the same as intending. And I think that's kind of like the significance between the two, right? Having a thought of like, ooh, what if I, slap this kid, isn't the same as, I'm going to slap this kid. Intention is different to thought. And I think that's kind of what's important. And belief is also different to thought. You can think a lot of things, but to believe in something, you have to take it within your core, and belief is within your inner concept of what is real and what is not. And so intending to harm, thinking, okay, you know what, I am going to stop people from going to the mosque, to specifically the Kaaba, the sacred mosque in Mecca, as in having within you the desire, whether you carry it out or not, or maybe you start doing it and then somehow you get stopped. I don't know. And also, we have these kind of discussions all the time. So here it says, for instance, whoever intends the wrongdoing, they will make him taste a punishment that is painful. What does that mean for those that repent? Does that mean for those that repent, they'll still taste a punishment that's painful? Do their good deeds outdo their way deeds? I think I'm going to withhold from describing and discussing how God's judgment plays out. We just know what we have the verses in front of us, and this is the decree for intending to stop people or intending to deviate from the sacred mosque is something that puts a judgment upon you. Now, whether that judgment is permanent, whether the judgment changes, whether that judgment is the final one, that I'm going to leave to God. But we just know from the verses that just intending to do that is something that will be punished, essentially. Whew.
وَإِذْ بَوَّأْنَا لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ مَكَانَ الْبَيْتِ أَلَّا تُشْرِكْ بِي شَيْئًا وطهر بيتي للطائفين والقائمين والركع السجود.
Now, a few things came to mind when I read this, but let's see what it says first. And then when we assign to Abraham the side of the house where we have the Kaaba now, the side of the house that they do not associate with me anything, and to purify my house for those who, this was a new word for me, circumambulate. Circumambulate, to go in around the circle around. I've never heard that word, circumambulate. Interesting. It makes much more sense in Arabic. Al-Ta'ifin, I was like, oh yeah, of course, Ta'ifin, clear. But circumambulate, never heard of it in my life. And English is by far my stronger language. But essentially, purify my house, so those who circumambulate, and those who stand, and those who bow, and those who prostrate. وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. So we were assigned to Abraham the side of the house, saying, don't associate anything with me in worship, and purify my house for those who circle. Which then made me think, since the time of Abraham to the time of the prophet, there clearly was deviation, right? Because the people that the Prophet Muhammad came to were worshipping idols. I always kind of think about that because, if Abraham purified it, then it had to be kind of re-purified in a way, I think. I'm not quite sure. I've just seen the movie The Message, which is a very interesting movie, beautiful movie. If you ever want to see the story of the Prophet Muhammad, it's wonderful. And it's both in Arabic and in English. They filmed 2 films and 2 sets of actors. It was very beautiful, fantastic. But essentially, there were also worshipping idols by the time the Prophet Muhammad came, and that's essentially why he was persecuted for so much, because he came told them, by the way, y'all should pray to God, and not the statues. So Muhammad, peace be upon him, had to repurify the house. But it started with Abraham. Abraham built that house in Mecca, and he did purify it, and essentially he's purifying it for those that circumambulate, those who stand, those who bow, and those who prostrate. Essentially, this is the where Muslims go to for al-Hajj, for the pilgrimage. This is the origin of it all. Abraham built that house.
وأذن في الناس بالحج يأتوك رجالا وعلى كل ضامر يأتين من كل فج عميق.
And here it says, and proclaim to people, to mankind, the pilgrimage, bil-Hajj, that's the word, al-Hajj is the pilgrimage. يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا, they will come to you on foot and on every lean camel, and they will come from every mountain highway that is distant. Call people to the pilgrimage. According to Ibn Kathir, Abraham said to Allah, but my voice cannot reach all the peoples. Allah said, you make the call and we will deliver the invitation to all. Interesting, but yeah, it's hard for me to go like, okay, how did Ibn Kathir know what Abraham said to Abraham? Anyway, here, and again, it's important to see that this instruction is kind of given to Abraham, but it can also apply to the Prophet Muhammad, because the Prophet Muhammad tells mankind to commit the pilgrimage and come on foot or on camel, any which way come from every single direction. And in fact, most Muslims can carry on this tradition of inviting people for Hajj. So sometimes I say the Quran, but I mean, okay, all right. No, okay, we're not doing it. I was trying to go back to the previous verse. We know that it was talking about Abraham, so it does apply to Abraham. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but I'm saying it's kind of the indication, it's kind of the interest. It's kind of that the instruction was already given to Abraham as well as it was given to the Prophet Muhammad, because he also gave it to us. So like it is an instruction that we see time and time again. And we see this with the Quran quite often. There seems to be a repetition of these directives and these perspectives.
ليشهدوا منافع لهم ويذكروا اسم الله في أيام معلومات على ما رزقهم من بهيمة الأنعام فكلوا منها وأطعموا البائس الفقير.
So why do you do these pilgrimage? Why do you go? Why do they come from every different angle and different location? So that they may witness benefits for them, and they may mention the name of God on days that are known. Hajj is done specifically. Don't catch me. There's a specific time of year, Muslim calendar, not the Gregorian calendar. There's a specific time of year. I'm not going to feign my ignorance, and I can Google it, but I think you can Google it as well. There's a specific time for Hajj, and it's connected also to Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Fitr is after Ramadan. Eid al-Adha is after Hajj. You can tell I've been doing this for a while. There's a specific day for when you can do the pilgrimage. Anytime you go to Mecca to kind of do, you can do a mini pilgrimage called al-Umrah. That's not the Hajj. The Hajj is done specifically on specific days within the Muslim calendar. And the Umrah can be done any time of year. So anytime you can do a mini pilgrimage. But the main pilgrimage that you're asked to do once in your life is done on a specific set of days. Over what has provided them from beasts and cattle. And pronounce the name of Allah on appointed days over the sacrificed animals He has provided for them. ويذكروا اسم الله في أيام معلومات على ما رزقهم. Oh, and mention the name of God over those days that are known, over what He has provided them from beasts and cattle. It doesn't say sacrificial, but it does say beast and camel, beast and cattle, not camel. And we do talk about sacrifice in a bit. فكلوا منها وَاطْعِمُوا البائس الفقير. So eat from it and feed the miserable and the poor. And this is kind of also one of the things that they do at Hajj. Not only do you do the pilgrimage and go around, you also sacrifice meat and you give it to the poor and you give it to the needy. It's such a beautiful concept of like travel and sacrifice and mention and God and glory, and like doing this is such a wonderful experience that is full of giving back and be connecting to God, and there's like so much beauty in this act. I have not yet committed al-Hajj. Inshallah, I will do it in my future. But first, let me finish reading the Quran, I suppose. I don't have to finish reading the Quran. I could go today, but it just doesn't feel like the right time. But yeah, they're supposed to feed the miserable and the poor. Yeah.
ثم ليقضوا تفثهم وليوفوا نذورهم وليطوفوا بالبيت العتيق.
And then let them prescribe their duties and let them fulfill their vows so that they may circumambulate the house, the ancient house. And here it says let them groom themselves, let them fulfill their prescribed duty. تفثهم وليوفوا نذورهم. So fulfill their vows. ليقضوا, let them do their prescribed duties. تفثهم, right? That's what it's saying. Did I? This is what Mr. Matar sent. I had already translated it. I should have looked at it anyway. So then let's do ثم ليقضوا تفثهم. Yeah, I think it's just prescribed duties, right? Let them finish their ritual impurity. Okay, so that's kind of where you get the groom themselves. And if you look at the concept, it says shaving their hair, clipping their nails, taking the shower. There are specific things that you're asked to do before you commit to the pilgrimage. A way of ritual cleansing. Everyone gets a buzz cut. There are specific constraints for what type of clothes you have to wear. Though I don't know if those constraints are in the Quran. But either way, ثُمَّ لِيَقْضُوا تَفَثَهُمْ, their prescribed duties. The understanding is to groom themselves in the proper way, shave their heads, clip their nails, take their showers, to be as fresh as possible for God. And there's kind of like, there's a beauty to it, right? There's a beauty to the ritual. And everybody wears white. All the men wear white, I think. And all the women wear black, if I'm not mistaken. But I haven't been there. I just have to remember it from my childhood from watching the videos. There's something beautiful about the whole ritual of it. I'm sure the comments are going to pop up. I'm sure Mr. Matar would explain this a lot better than I can. So stay tuned to the comments and you'll see a better explanation. I'm not explaining it as well as I can. But there is a kind of ritual behind the pilgrimage about cleansing, about preparing, about, sacrificing food, killing cattle. You're not killing cattle, but you're essentially like praying over food so that you can feed the hungry and feed the needy. It's just a beautifully pious pilgrimage, which is very beautiful.
ذلك ومن يعظم حرمات الله فهو خير له عند ربه وأحلت لكم الأنعام إلا ما يتلى عليكم فاجتنبوا الرجس من الأوثان واجتنبوا قول الزور.
Yeah. That is, and whoever honors or makes grander or makes great the sacred rights of God, then it is best for him. Whoever does this, whoever kind of commits to these things, kind of is doing good for their own sake. And the Quran never, and this is something that I found, that whatever the Quran prescribes is good for you. You're not doing these things for God's sake. You're not doing these things so that God can benefit. You're doing these things so you can benefit. You're going, and there is also a kind of a spiritual reverence that happens when you go to the pilgrimage, when you go to Hajj. There is a kind of glow. Some people cry. Some people see wonders. Some people, it depends on different parts of it. You just kind of feel the spiritual connection and majesty and energy. And it's all for your benefit. You do these things for your benefit. And I think that's very beautiful. It's best for them near their God. Here they're saying in the sight of their Lord. It just says near their God. And it was made lawful for you the cattle, except what has been recited to you, which if you look at it, it says 5:3 and 5:3. That's where it tells you you're not allowed to eat pig, you're not allowed to eat the dead animals, you're not allowed to eat the blood. I recommend reading chapter 5, verse 3, to kind of see that even on this day, that is still forbidden. It's even on a day of purity and clarity, you're not supposed to eat it. And it says to avoid the abomination from the idols, don't worship the idols, and avoid the word that is false. Shun words of falsehood. Try to be true, try to be honest, don't be idolatrous, and preserve these as you are committing Hajj. I'm looking forward to going to Hajj. I'm so looking forward to it. I'm so curious. I'm so, like, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a very cynical individual, and I have to believe in something, and I have to kind of see it for myself and feel it for myself. And that's why I'm at the Quran, because I believe it to be the word of God. I'm very curious what I'm going to see, what I'm going to feel when I go on Hajj, when I go to the pilgrimage, when I go to the Kaaba, when I do all these rituals. Already I'm filled with an insane sense of peace at the thought. This idea of like purification on the highest level just seems beautiful. And I'm very, very excited to see what happens then.
حنفاء لله غير مشركين به ومن يشرك بالله فكأنما خر من السماء فتخطفه الطير أو تهوي به الريح في مكان سحيق.
This is a very interesting visual, but it continues from the previous verse. It says, being upright to God, not associating any partners with him. And whoever associates partners with God, then it's as though, I love the word kharra. Arabs will know why I like this word, because it sounds like another word. He has fallen from the sky. So snatched him the birds, like a bird snatched him while he was in the sky? Or he has blown from him the wind to a place that is far off. And it's like you fell from the sky, so a bird grabbed you, or the wind blew you to a far off place. In this scenario, is the intention that we're falling from the sky trying to land on a specific spot? Like, this can't be talking about skydiving. Like, of course not, because this was 1,400 years ago. So what is this example? Someone who's fallen from the sky that's either snatched away by bird or swept by wind to a remote place. What? I don't understand this at all. It's an interesting visual. First of all, snatched by a bird. How big are these birds? Blown by wind, I can understand. Blown by wind, sure. When you're falling at a specific terminal velocity, I suppose it's easy for any sort of influence to kind of move you in any direction. But a bird was, I don't know. Maybe it's a bald eagle. There are pretty big birds. I don't know. It's this whole analogy. Someone who's associated with God is like someone who's fallen from the sky and either snatched away by birds or swept by the winds. I don't understand it at all. But it's very interesting. It's a very interesting visual.
ذلك ومن يعظم شعائر الله فإنها إنها من تقوى القلوب.
That and whoever honors the symbols of God, then indeed it is from the piety of the hearts. Yeah, and here it says that is so, which is like the word is just that. That, and the way that I understood it the first time was those who are upright in not associating with gods with partners, and whoever associates gods with partners, then he's kind of like a lost. He's fallen in the wrong place. Maybe it's just as simple as that. He's just fallen to the wrong place, kind of. And I thought that would be those who are being upright from the associating with partners from God, and whoever honors the symbols of God. You know what? 31 and 32. Are we going to get there? Also includes obeying his commands. Best way when it comes to offering sacrifices. I mean, which is fat, healthy animals. Okay. I'm not going to get into it. فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Then it is from the piety of the hearts. And those who honor the symbols of God. Yeah, I mean, being upright in devotion to God, and those who honor the symbols of God come from the piety of the heart. Simple explanation, I think, is the best way that we get to. I think.
لكم فيها منافع إلى أجل مسمى ثم محلها إلى البيت العتيق.
You may benefit from sacrificial animals from appointed terms, milking them or riding them until the time of sacrifice, then for their place of sacrifice at the ancient house. It doesn't actually mention sacrifice animals here. It specifically says, for you in it is benefits until a term that is appointed, then its place, and that's what I translated over here. Mahallaha is her place. Then its place is at the house of the ancient. That being said, I have a feeling that I'm going to grossly misunderstand these verses and my ability to explain them very well. It does kind of talk about beasts and cattle after it, and it does talk about eating from the cattle from before it. So it would make the most sense that these verses are continuing to talk about cattle without mentioning it. But the actual words used, لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَنَافِعٌ إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى. In it for you is benefits until a term that is appointed, then its place. And if you are talking about it in the way that is explained, milking or riding them until a time of sacrifice, it's possible that this is a part of the tradition, this is a part of what needs to be done, that you can, have these benefits until a specific time, until you have to sacrifice them, until the house, at the house of the ancient. Which I'm also curious to know what this house of the ancient is, which is very interesting. But yeah, these verses go slightly above my head, but I think they're talking about the animals at the time of the pilgrimage.
ولكل أمة جعلنا منسكا ليذكروا اسم الله على ما رزقهم من بهيمة الأنعام فإلهكم إله واحد فله أسلموا وبشر المخبتين.
Interesting. This verse came into my mind. فَإِلَهَكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ came into my mind as I was praying. That's why I kind of just did a double take. As I was praying today, just this verse came into my mind, and I don't know. And then I read Al-Hakum At-Takathur because that was the closest verse that I knew to إِلَهَكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. Very interesting. But yeah, if we لكم فيها منافع إلى أجل مسمى ثم أحلها إلى البيت العتيق. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna try and explain, even though my whole channel is about explaining what I understand. Let me focus on what we read. It says, and for every nation we made for it a rite so that they may mention the name of God about what we have provided them from beasts and cattle. And again, this is a big part of the Islamic tradition when it comes to eating meat. You're only allowed to eat meat that was killed with God's name on it as it was being killed. You have to say God's name on it as it's being killed. That's why there's a difference between halal meat and non-halal meat. It's not enough to just eat things that were not forbidden. You also have to eat specifically meat that was killed in the name of God. And I always used to think, okay, what if I just avoid the pig, the blood, the thing, and what if there's like a caveat of like meat that is not killed for anything? Is that acceptable? Because then it's kind of for God, because it's for God's creatures. But no, specifically the Quran says you have to say its name upon the animal, and also the animals have to be killed in a very humane way, which is a very, very beautiful thing. But for every nation is an appointed rite so that they mention the name of God on the beasts and the cattle. And then it says, فَإِلَهِكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, and your God is one God. So to him submit, it's the word Islam submit, and give good tidings to the humble ones. The 33 verse, I kind of want to explain it other than how it is explained here, to be honest. لَكُمْ فِيهَا مَنَافِعُ إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُّسَمًّى, because it is talking about piety of the heart and honoring of the symbols of God, and in it has benefits until a term that is appointed, and then its place at the ancient house kind of talks about the things that you're doing and the symbols of God. And I don't know. Let's not get too complicated. Let's not stray too far from what is being said. It's just I'm struggling with just going with whatever the interpretation says, because you know me, I have my opinion about everything.
الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم والصابرين على ما أصابهم والمقيم الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون.
So here it's talking about the humble ones, and it describes the humble ones as the ones who, when God is mentioned, they're wajilat qulubahum. Yeah, fear is not quite right. Trembled, their hearts flutter, their hearts react. Their hearts, like, I don't think, like when it's not fear, it's like, it's like that intense feeling, that feeling of excitement, that feeling of alertness, that feeling of like, it can be like adrenaline, it can be like love, it can be like excitement, it can be like there's just a feeling that your heart gets. It's almost like your heart sinks in a way, your heart trembles. Fear is not the right word. Their hearts, when you mention God, their hearts kind of flutter, fear, react, kind of, there's a specific emotion to it. And those who are patient over what has afflicted them, and this is kind of a very important thing that the Quran constantly tells us to do, constantly tells us to be patient about the good, the bad, all the above, always be patient. And the ones who establish prayer, it's very important to establish prayer, and out of what we have provided them, they spend. And this one I try to take. Personally, I've always sucked at not spending. But it's not just always spending for myself. I also spend for others, and I spend for, I give back to give to the poor and needy at times, the ones that I see on the street, and then I have my regular ones, and I do spend. I do try to give back. I do try to give as much as I can. Which I don't want to make this about me, but it's talking about those who are humble to God. Here I am describing all the good things that I'm doing, telling you, oh, look at me, I'm so good at being humble, which is ironic. The last verse for today, no, it's 38, not 36. Whoopsie.
والبدن جعلناها لكم من شعائر الله لكم فيها خير فاذكروا اسم الله عليها صواف فإذا وجبت جنوبها فكلوا منها وأطعموا القانع والمعتر كذلك سخرناها لكم لعلكم تشكرون.
Yeah, so here it's kind of talking about sacrificed animals again, specifically camels and cattle. We made it for you from among the symbols of God, so that for you therein is good. And again, we talked about the symbols above, so this kind of all ties it all together. Probably what the explanation that they've been given makes the most sense. And I am ignorant, but I'm trying to learn about the Quran. We made it as the symbols for God. Therein is good. So it mentioned the name of God over it while they're lined up. And here it says for sacrifice, but it doesn't actually say that they're sacrificed while they're lined up, but that's to be understood. And when they're down on their sides, then eat from it and feed the needy who do not ask and the needy who ask. Al-Qani' is kind of like the satisfied, and wal-mu'tar, the one who's not satisfied, the one who's constantly like seeking. So feed everybody, essentially. The good, the bad, the ugly. There are verses in the Quran that talk about who you should give to and which of the needy are the good, and that you can kind of see a symbol on their head, somewhat to speak, that these are good and these are not. But in this specific occasion, it's saying feed everyone. I think is all those who need, you know. And thus we have subjected for you so that you may be grateful.
لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن يناله التقوى منكم كذلك سخرها لكم لتكبروا الله على ما هداكم وبشر المحسنين.
It does not reach, but it's kind of like they're kind of saying that it's not for. It does not reach God, their meat nor their blood. Like you're not, sacrificing these animals and their blood. The blood isn't for God. The meat isn't for God. But it reaches the piety from among you. It's your piety that reaches him instead. It's not the blood and the meat that you're doing for God, and that's what God wants. God wants the piety and the reverence and your belief and your humbleness through the process of killing these cattle for feeding the needy and the hungry. That act of religious fervor and religious desire is what God is seeking. He's seeking the good within you. And again, it ties back to why are we doing the pilgrimage? Why are we doing these sacrifices? They're not for God, they're for us. And that's what God benefits, because we're doing something that is good for us, and we're doing something that is pious. We're doing something that keeps him in mind. We're doing something for his sake. And thus, he has subjected for you so that you may magnify God over what he has guided you. And again, it's giving thanks to God. It's giving glory to God. It's appreciating that God has guided you throughout his life. And this is kind of a show of gratitude. It's beautiful. It's a kind of symbiotic relationship that's kind of amazing. And give good tidings to the good doers. It's very beautiful. It's very wonderful. Oh, 37 was the last one, not 38. Whoopsie. But that was the last verse. I look forward to Hajj whenever I get the chance. It just seems beautiful. It just seems holy. It just seems amazing. It just seems glorious. And I look forward to the opportunity to be able to do so. Allahumma. I'm not gonna. I was gonna say put it in my future. There's a specific way to pray for it, to for it, but hopefully, inshallah, it'll happen in my lifetime. Inshallah, I'm willing. It will happen, inshallah. That's it. That's all we got for you today. Sadaqallahu al-Ali al-Azim. I appreciate you, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. What is today? Today's Tuesday. We got 3 more days of this for this week. Anyway, ma'as salam. See you tomorrow. Bye. Hey, there's a concurrent viewer on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. I'm going to say bye, YouTube, in a second. Oh, Carissa Carlin is in the Twitch chat. We got one viewer here, one viewer there. Everybody view, view, view. Love you guys. The episode will be on my YouTube if you missed the first part of it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Masalami.